Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is good intentions. And we're going to talk about how often good intentions go awry and how we can perhaps bring them back to our to alignment with our highest good. So it should be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, and creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, all those sensations, including the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Great to have you with us. And today we're talking about good intentions. And there's so many examples of good intentions gone wrong. But I want to speak about the good intentions of parts of ourselves that maybe originated in an intention to help us and instead became obstacles or created obstacles for us. So an example is a behavior of anxiety. This was with a client that I've spoken about already, but I wanted to discuss this in the specific context of good intentions. So when we look at a behavior that we have, a pattern that we consider negative, what we can do is look at what is that part, or what is the actual good intention. Let's assume a good intention. What is a good intention that part is trying to play? And actually, this is something from NLP, where we look at what is the good intention of a behavior, and then we can recreate that behavior or realign that part that's producing that behavior to the higher intention. So oftentimes, negative self-talk is something that we've actually learned from others who criticized us to motivate us, perhaps. And so we internalize that criticism in order to motivate us to do things and to become actively engaged in life. And so this negative self-talk, if we can find if we can source the positive intention because this part of us that might be having the negative self-talk is really powerful. If we can acknowledge it and recognize that its intention is to motivate us, to get us to accomplish, to become more fulfilled in a way, then maybe we can dialogue with that part. And I've done this with people over and over to great success. Excuse me, maybe we can dialogue with that part and invite it to cultivate a different mode of enforcement, to a different methodology that might support us more fully in achieving the objective, whatever that is. So if it's to be productive and engaged and creative, that maybe there's a way that that very powerful energy can reframe its communication with us, rather than negative self-talk, maybe generating an enthusiasm and excitement and energy for taking on the challenges that were the initiating factor for the self-talk in the first place. So it's really quite remarkable to discover how these parts, and it's all a construct, okay? It's not that there are really parts, but we can interact with them in that way so that our consciousness, our brain, our being is able to modify those behaviors. So it gives us an inroad into the inner workings of our minds from sort of a back door, and without having to necessarily understand how it works. So you have this part that is providing negative self-talk. Its intention is to motivate and maybe to keep you humble, or any number of other things, and the positive intention. And then we can interact with it in a way that we can source new approaches, new perspectives that actually achieve the goal more effectively. Because what happens is, while in an earlier circumstance a certain behavior could have been beneficial, or a certain pattern could have been beneficial, oftentimes these behaviors outlive their usefulness and actually become detrimental. And it happens over and over. So for example, a child who is in a dangerous environment, where there may be volatile parents, that child learns certain behaviors that serve them in their survival, like being quiet, being invisible, being very docile, or very overly accommodating, or any number of other behaviors that a child might learn in that kind of environment to protect themselves. Then as an adult, those same behaviors, Jewel wants to be part of this. Here's Jewel. Here's Jewel. The same behaviors as an adult can end up being really detrimental. So, for instance, somebody who is wanting to be in a position of leadership, if they have a thing about being invisible, it makes it very difficult to be in a position of leadership, right? If there's a job that they want to go for, if they're used to being compliant and quiet, it may be difficult for them to take the action that they need to take in order to secure that position, for example. So that original intention of the behavior was for self-preservation and survival, protection, right? And then as that person matured, those behaviors did not, and then they became a deficit rather than a benefit, because in order to survive and thrive, not just survive, but thrive, they need to be able to step out of their shell, step out of that invisibility, step out from behind the invisibility cloak in order to accomplish the same thing that the invisibility cloak was there for in the first place. It's just that they've outgrown the cloak. So the good intentions are there and just need to be resourced again. So it's interesting, because what we are typically inclined to do is to heap insult upon injury for ourselves when we have these behaviors that we call them self-sabotaging behaviors, when in fact, at their core, they're intended to provide some kind of benefit originally. And when we exile those parts of ourselves, or we criticize them further, what we're doing is making them more deeply entrenched rather than allowing them to work with us and for us. And so when we've spoken quite a lot about life happening for us and through us rather than to us. And so this is part of that, of implementing that in life, is to recognize that there's an underlying positive intention even to the worst of behaviors. And oftentimes, by being able to source that intention, we're able to align with the behavior, allow it to align with us to better serve its function. It's wild to see that. And, you know, the other thing is too, this, if we're talking about good intentions and all the damage that can be done with good intentions, where we have kind of the do-gooder mentality a lot, especially those of us who are particularly sensitive to other people's pain and wanting to help, right? And oftentimes we look at a situation and assess that situation not necessarily to its fullest, not recognizing the ramifications of our intervention, perhaps. So a really good example of this is there was, and I don't know the specifics of the community, and please forgive me if I don't recount the story accurately, but a community where the women had to walk miles to get water. Good morning, Sue. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. So we're talking about good intentions. So in this situation, in this village, the women had to walk for miles to get water. And so someone with the best of intentions said, okay, we're going to help this community. And they installed a well. And what happened was ultimately the well fell into disuse, even though it was right there and it was really convenient. And the reason was because while the women had to walk miles to get water, these walks were a way for them to have communion among the women, that they could cultivate community and connection, and they had this opportunity. It's kind of like if think about people who smoke, and one of the biggest payoffs of smoking is being able to have time to just exit from whatever the ruckus or whatever the fray is of the day, to be able to go and take a break. And sometimes to be able to talk to other people is kind of like the water cooler talk, where people would gather around the water cooler and chat and then get back to work. And smoking often has the opportunity to give people that break. And that's one of the things that people miss very much when they give up smoking, is the time to just step away. And so when you recognize that and in a way, it was, the smoking culture is changing quite a lot, but in a way, it was a socially acceptable way to, or reason to be able to take a break, to step away. And I don't know that it was replaced by anything else that was culturally acceptable, but that might be something that we can look at in terms of implementing something that serves the good intention without the negative behavior. So, Sue, thank you. So Sue is directing y'all to my website for to learn about my coaching work. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So when we're talking about two different dimensions of good intention, certainly, but oftentimes we'll try to help somebody and they don't want the help. They don't want the help. Somebody, like, I just heard recently of a parent-child interaction where the child said, you know what, I'd really appreciate it if you would just let me do this myself, if you would just let me figure it out myself. So the good intention was, let me help you with that. And the experience was, you don't think I'm capable. The intention, the helping intention was good, but the consequence wasn't so good. It was exactly the opposite of what the person who was trying to help would have wanted to accomplish, because they were hoping to help empower the person rather than to disempower them. And so oftentimes our well-meaning intentions are ill-informed. And I think that that's kind of the same thing that's operative within ourselves in these behaviors that have kind of outlived their usefulness, right? So as a parent with a young child, helping them to do something is probably empowering and uplifting. But as that child gets older and becomes more of an adult, that eagerness to help is can feel like a reinforcement of inadequacy, which is exactly the opposite of the intention, right? So where the intention is to support, and instead it feels very unsupportive. So when I think this is why, and we have that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, because oftentimes our assessment of what is good is incomplete at the very least. And so how do we inform those good intentions better? When it's with ourselves, first of all, we get to assume a good intention in a behavior. It's like, wow, that's a wild behavior and it's so destructive, and it's causing me all kinds of pain, causing pain to other people. What's the positive intention? And how can I fulfill that positive intention with a behavior that is not so destructive? Any degree, even any increment is a good increment in that pursuit. I'm just trying to think of some other instances. Well, I think I'm gonna just talk for a minute or two about these parts that aren't necessarily parts, but when we can identify them as parts, it gives us access to them to be able to negotiate with them. In fact, that is an NLP technique, is parts negotiations, where you have one part that wants this and one part that wants that. And so I did a session with somebody yesterday where there was a part that was wanting to control things and show up responsibly and take care of everything and manage everything. And there was another part that was kind of trusting life and wanting to allow life to flow through the intention that they have this of self-expression and knowing that they can trust life. So the one was feeling completely responsible and overwhelmed and overburdened and fearful, and the other was in joy, vitality, excitement, curiosity. And we got these two parts talking. The part that was trying to manage everything really just wanted life to be good, wanted everything to be taken care of. So when this person experienced that these two parts were on very different planes, and so the one that was in the flow, in joy, in service to life, in surrender to life, invited the one that was trying to manage everything to come on up. It was delighted to do so. And there was a flipping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and the recognition that there really is a choice. There really is a choice as to the energetic plane on which we reside. And that happens through our consciousness, through our deliberate focus, presence, choice to elevate our thinking, our being, and our energy. And that is available to us in any given moment, even though, and the trick is to remember that that choice is available and to serve our higher intentions. So with that, I think I'm going to call it a morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And as always, it is both a pleasure and a privilege to share this time together. I'm so grateful to you. And until next time, so much love to you.